The first 3 weeks of the eruption here in Hawaii, crazy things would happen in the middle of the night. A new fissure would open up and it would threaten a new neighborhood. Thousands of people were evacuated from their homes. I started the Hawaii Tracker Facebook group to help people understand what's going on and get their questions answered.
Hey, how's it going? We're live. This is Fissure 20.
We had hundreds of people all throughout the neighborhoods sending in videos, articles, and images. We spend a lot of time making sure the accurate information gets out.
This is live. There's still lava moving.
They weren't just sharing a story, they were helping their neighbor. If a family was being evacuated, the group would just jump in and help out. So it was huge. They were watching out for each other.
Hello everybody, thank you for coming. Thank you for the support from everybody.
As we go through this, we're growing closer together as a community. When tragedies like this strike, you really realize how much you need each other.
Aloha everyone, I'm geologist Philip Ong, bringing you guys an emergency breaking update. Today, June 7th, 2023, Kīlauea is erupting once again out of its central summit crater at Halemaʻumaʻu, all within a national park. No lava threat to people. There is a lot of fog coming out of the volcano at this point in time, so that'll be an impact to people. But thus far, what we're looking at is a spectacle, an act of nature that's extremely beautiful happening within Halemaʻumaʻu crater in Kīlauea caldera, and this is a live stream from the USGS on screen right now. So you can see all the different spots of orange where the lava's coming out. Let's see if I can get my screen on my screen brush here. All right, so this is the live stream from the USGS coming through. You can see there are several vents. There's one right there. There's a whole group around the central island right in here. Some off to the east over here. So I thought what we would do is just fairly quickly, because I did have other schedules today, share with you guys what we know about the start of this eruption here. All right, so just to mention, we are going to be checking in with 2 pineapples at the end of our show here and pass you guys off to them. They are up there streaming live, ready for a few hours this morning. Here's a little peek into their stream. So, but before we get to that, let's go over what we do know about this eruption so far. A couple of fixes here to the screen. So here is the USGS volcano activity notice for this morning. There actually were 2. There was one that was earlier that was issued at 3:14 a.m. when they raised us to orange from yellow, aviation code, and to watch from advisory. And that was not an eruption at that point in time, but they were showing signs of magma movement in the subsurface. I saw this happening a little bit last night, starting around 6 p.m. or so. It started ramping up. It seemed like it backed off a little bit. By the time I went to bed, it actually started back up again one more time. So that was a 3 a.m. warning. They did note that it was not possible to tell if that would lead an eruption, but there was an indication of magma movement. And then coming up at 4:47 a.m., 3 minutes after eruption actually begins, they note at approximately 4:44 a.m. today, June 7, 2023, USGS HVO detected glow in Kīlauea summit webcam images, indicating eruption had commenced within Halemaʻumaʻu crater in Hawaiʻi Volcanoes National Park. So now we are at aviation code red, volcano alert level warning, and they are warning the opening phases are dynamic. Fissures are at the base of Halemaʻumaʻu, generating lava flows on the surface of the crater floor. Activity is confined to Halemaʻumaʻu, and the hazards will be reassessed as eruption progresses. So what they're saying there is everything is still contained within a crater. There is no sign yet of it escaping and going elsewhere. However, magma can pressurize and move underground at these opening phases of the eruption. That does not seem to be happening from what we can tell so far, but they're not closing the door on that yet, keeping alert and keeping the warning up until it's absolutely sure that this is gonna stabilize and stay where it is right now. So that's the volcanic activity notice from the USGS. Here is the F1 thermal camera, and I've just taken a few captures of the frames we have from this morning so far. So what you see is the very first frame. At the very beginning, we have that little glowing west vent pond right down here. It's the spot that's been glowing for the last 3 months. In fact, today is 3 months to the day from the last lava that was seen within Halemaʻumaʻu. And since I'm mentioning that, I heard a question come up already. Is this considered a new eruption or an old resumption of the old eruption? You might say, well, it's been within 3 months, barely exactly perhaps, so maybe it's a resumption. However, what we saw the last time the eruption began in January 2023, it looked like the lava came out of a similar area as where it is now, near the central island. And because that was not exactly the same spot as the west vent, they called it a new eruption rather than a resumption. So our working theory right now is that this will be termed a new eruption rather than a resumption, both because it's at the very, very end of that 3-month window, but also because it's coming up in multiple other places from the crater floor where it wasn't before. So while we're on this screen, let me see what I can point out. You can clearly see that the eruption begins around the central island. That's that dark spot right in the middle right there. Right, so really interesting to note. The spot that was erupting at the end of the January to February 2023 eruption was right in here, so that area does look to have reactivated. That was putting out a flow of lava that was going to the east in that direction, so we're not seeing quite that this time, right? That does seem like lava did pop up here first, but then it popped up also on this other side of the island where we haven't seen lava come out anytime recently before. We've seen lava coming out here on this southwest side of the island where we hadn't seen it pop up before. We do have this old west vent basin, which I'll try to outline it, something like that right there, right? So that's the pit that held lava at the end of last year. And what you can see is that once again, lava does emerge from this side of the island out of that hole, that little lava tube that seems to feed back underneath the crust, and then refills that crater from that side at the same time. You see, in fact, over here, some other small bits of land that are getting drowned by lava quick on. So the old north vent, this is the north vent 1, or the west vent 1.0, back from 2021 into 2020, 2021, also seems to have reactivated. Another spot that we saw showing steam and heat and glow there recently. So pops up here. It looks like it actually pops up here as well, right? This over here, more in this direction. This is the newer west vent complex. So you see that that was the old high spot of the old west vent, the new high spot of the newer west vent, and with that little pond that existed here off to the side in between. And lava's coming out from everywhere, there, and there, and there, and out of the west vent pit over here, and around all the island over here. Let me pan back out so we can see where else is happening. Because here at the top of the screen, way up there, in the old east pond basin, that was the most recent eruption site, that does seem like lava popped out of that basin as well. So it looks like every weak spot on a crater's floor has burst up together. It's hard to tell exactly where the input into the body of magma beneath the crust actually is, because it seems like it's pressurizing and lifting that whole the whole lid is coming up and the whole thing is cracking. So it could be coming up anywhere underneath there and feeding that whole churning mass below, and it's popping up and through and out. So as expected, these first phases of the eruption are really dramatic. Lots of lava coming out in a short amount of time. That's typically how it goes. You see the whole crater floor looks like it's getting covered with fresh lava right here. It's hard to tell from this image, most recent image that I have here from 6:30 a.m. whether the whole islands have been submerged here in the foreground. But huge amount of lava active, and it seems like it'll probably be pretty good today. Likely crest over, and in the next few days we'll be getting slightly less if it goes like the last eruptions that we've had. So if you have a chance to get up to the park today, it's the time to see it today. Tonight will probably be extremely busy. I hear it's already getting busy up there right now, and probably the next couple of days will be good as well. And then yeah, it's really a fantastic, like the lava stadium, as I like to call it, within a crater there. So there is a little bit of activity that's off on the sides closer to the crater walls, but we can't quite see that from here. We'll maybe check in with our correspondents on the ground to see what that looks like from their perspective. But first of all, let's show you guys, this is a KW camera in a similar sequence here. So here we are going from the dark pre-dawn to that first burst of lava. And you can see, if I can zoom it in some more, there's that central island. You can see the fountains popping up all around it, there, and there. You see this west basin, once was an exit point, entry point, refilling right through there. And there you see the West Vent Complex, a couple of old mounds of rock here that were from the West Vent 1.0 and then West Vent 2.0 back over here to the right. So looks like from this view in the KW camera, we can look all the way here to the south side. See the lava has come all the way around and wrapped around onto here. One thing that is a little bit different from before is if I look at this western ledge, right? You can see through the loop here that there's ground that has cracks in it right there and right there and right there. So this was actually that western gap block that's been sitting there. Lava's been encroaching on for a long time. It looks like lava has flooded the southwest area already and probably covered most of the thing, or maybe there's a little sliver left here on this corner, but really filling pretty fast. So it has overflowed onto this short little ledge. However, it's within a bay that it really is going to be stuck in there, and it can't get out in any direction over there. So panning back over here to the eastern and southern margins. This is the eastern margin in the background back over here. You can still see, it's hard to tell in the light, but there's crater wall up right. Looks like it's maybe right in there. Right in there maybe. Hard to tell exactly. We'll look at the reverse angle from the other cameras. But panning over to the north side of the crater, see the lava's flooding across over here as well. It's hard to tell exactly where it's lapped up onto. Hard to tell if it's covered area that was already covered or how much it's actually increasing, but we do expect the depth to have increased here and to actually have getting close. So right in here is the area where that next down drop block is really, really close. So there it is right there. So probably the most dramatic thing that might happen coming up here in a short term is if lava keeps filling this area, it may spill up over onto this block that direction there. That's what I hear people talking about already. Interesting to see if that'll come to be or what. So that's the KW camera view here. I'll let it loop from a wide angle, a little wider. There you go. So you can see the gas coming out there as well. Most of it's getting carried up and outwards. This was a clear morning up here, so most of the gases was blowing up and away. However, locally in the national park, you just definitely want to take precautions if you are sensitive to those volcanic gases. Okay, moving on, since I don't have as much time as usual today. This is the S1 camera from the south now. So that central island zone is right in here. And you can see the fountains beginning on either side there. And maybe a little bit better, you can see that. Let's pan to the west first. There's that West Vent 2.0 area right there. And interesting, you see the fountains popping up here. You see fountains here. You see fountains all the way down over here. Right? So it's really popping up everywhere. This is somewhat the edge of that old lid of the crusted crater floor that's been buoyed, lifting upwards. So if that thing keeps rising like a cork, it's going to crackle on the edges and lava is going to squeeze out the sides there. So that seems to be what's happening there. Lots of these little vents here on the side. It's hard to tell elsewhere from these images if there are any other vents out there as well. So maybe we'll get some better views when we turn our 2 pineapples here in a few minutes. But first, let's look at some of the monitoring signals. So here's our 1 week tilt. You can see we had a slight, there's our building tilt increase we've been talking about for all month. And that is an earthquake that seems to have began a sequence here that led to, looks like an offset, some deflation, maybe some local adjustment as gas was being emitted and forcing its way out, like a little, like kind of bursting the boil, so to speak. And then a big movement upwards right here, right? So, and then since that initial offset, which is the magma actually pushing its way through the surface itself, then the path is established, and then it usually starts coming back down from there as it deflates and swells back in, as now everything is emerging out of that vent. So that is the tilt today. For the last month, here's that bigger pattern. There is that increase that we see. Just for comparison for later, we're starting off our scale here on ground tilt somewhere around 0, maybe around 5, 0 to 5 range here. And we peak at around 33, we'll call it, right? So we're looking at somewhere around 30, 35 microradians of tilt as actual signal of the ground breaking right there. See that on both the stations over to the southwest as well. Here's our earthquakes that we talked about a little bit yesterday in a very, very brief update as part of our Pohoiki talk story. The earthquakes had been cycling down. They seemed like they were going really quiet. Then there were a few bursts that were happening last night, and that's what puts this bar slightly back up. And we did wonder if that pause in earthquakes might be the quiet before the storm. Sometimes that does happen, as we mentioned yesterday. Sometimes it's just a matter of the ground having adjusted enough and moving out of the way. Obviously now it was a calm before the storm, and it had pushed as far as it could, and was, rather than pushing laterally, starting to push its way up at that point in time. SO2, we don't really see the measurement coming out right now. This is the plots for the last week, or the last month here, ranging from 100 to 350 tons per day. However, let me scroll down here to this other plot. This is the whole last year of SO2 at the summit, and so while we don't have a new value coming up here for this part of the eruption right now, what we can see is that in the past, like the last one in January right here, actually peaked at 12,000 tons of SO2 in one day. So I would expect that right now the lava is likely in those thousands of tons per day range and decreasing, but we don't have an actual measurement of that coming in right now here. All right, so let me come back up. So here are the earthquakes for the last year. You can see the buildup over the last month and a half, 2 months here. The seismicity has been really elevated. We expect this to now drop back down, that the lava has found a path outwards and the earthquakes are likely to diminish. That is, presuming the lava comes out where it is and doesn't move anywhere else, which, if it's gone already those first few hours without it, it seems like there's a decent chance. You never know. Things can change. A new pulse of magma can come up and cause things to change. So we really don't know. It's a wait and see. But thus far, it seems like this first phase appears to be stable, coming up through the crater floor, underneath that crust, lifting the crust and erupting all around that crater floor altogether. The GPS is less relevant now, which is usually what we talk about when we're building up to eruption. However, what you can see, the pattern is that this is all in a summit region. Summit's been swelling apart. The east rift at Pu'o'o has not been, right? It's been decreasing for the whole last year, the two sides coming together, the line getting shorter, coming and going down, values going down. For the last week, here's where the earthquakes have actually been. So there it is, only the summit only. Nothing up here in the east rift so much. You do see some south flank, especially down here south of the caldera, as it's been moving out of the way as the crater fills up there. So still, the message is that it looks like it's still all contained to the summit, and there's no sign of it moving anywhere else at this point in time. That's the weekly, so it helps to go to the live earthquakes map, which is here. So there is that sequence of earthquakes we've had in the last day. This is just the last day of data here. So there it is, all around that summit crater, right in there, right around the middle, and a couple of them on the outside as the flanks of the volcano adjust. A couple of south flanks way over here, but there's really nothing on the east rift there. That's what we really like to see. So it seems like it's found a good spot to be up there. Okay, so talked about the SO2. There is a little closer plot of the tilt, earthquakes for the last week. earthquakes for the last month on a map, you can see how much this is really building up to this. And I think that is... Oh, I want to show you guys the lava depth. So this is something that's hard to tell us so far right here, but yesterday I was looking at this and it looked like, I can maybe draw on here what it actually looked like. It was really zoomed in because we didn't have this big spike that you can barely see on the right here. So it looked like a little bit of data like this. I'm sorry, a little bit of data that was like up here, some right there, and then suddenly it was all the way down here, then it kind of got flat like that. Right? So I was wondering, oh, it seems interesting that lava depth has actually stopped going down, not by much, a little bit. Sometimes it can act like a tilt meter there on the ground, and it appears in hindsight now that it actually was. It had stopped going down, kind of flattened out, and now it's popped back up. So if I zoom way in here on the right, it's hard for you guys to see, but there's a pixel of blue right in there, right there. That's between these top two lines, right? Not the very top bar, but right in there, somewhere right in the middle of there. And if I come back across to this side, that's at 393.5 meters, more or less, right in there. And you compared to before, 388.5, right? So we're looking at about 5 meters. What's 5 meters in feet there? 15, 16 feet-ish or so of filling so far at the one spot where this laser is actually pointed, which is near that west vent basin in there. And just for confirmation, here's our tilt from the East Rift Zone at Pu'o'o, and it's still showing deflation, showing there's no effect on the East Rift Zone from this eruption at all. And that's maybe one of the more reassuring things. Now here's the last lava depth for the last week. Maybe you can see that, not really so much. This is a variation, so it's very, very, very slight decrease, and maybe right in here it might have been the only section where it might have flattened out a little bit. So we do have some other SO2 sensors. These are the fixed stations, so they're not integrating the full volume coming out of the volcano at any point in time. But you do see here that there has been background varying a bit over the last month here, as we've noted other measurements as well, as the magma is coming closer to the surface, releasing puffs of gas up and outwards, leaking out a little bit, and now it's falling to the surface. So a few more monitoring signals. I think we went through the tilt here. Those are the stations we have. The seismographs. So here are the seismographs for the last 48 hours at the summit. You do see these kind of bands of blue. That's not the signal. That's usually daytime. This is a nighttime. This is a daytime. Just activity of people and cars driving around. All that stuff is what you actually see there. But what really is a signal on here, you have to have a little pattern matching here. But right in here, this is supposed to be the nighttime right in there. And you start having all these little earthquakes. Spike, 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 spike. Right? It kind of... This stuff in here that looks a little longer, that looks more like it could be helicopters or cars or that kind of stuff. So it's really this section down here that we're really concerned with, that has all the building seismicity. We can actually blow it up. This is the last 12 hours. So here 12 hours ago, you can see how the line was actually flat. We're still having earthquakes. There's one. There's a slightly bigger one right there. Sorry, this is 24 hours, right? So then actually last night, here's where we actually have that bigger earthquake. Things seem to calm down. Right in here, the line is pretty flat, right? So it seemed like there was for about an hour, maybe a half hour or so right there, it seemed like it was really ramping up. It quiets back down for a couple hours in there, and it begins really intensely shaking at around 3:30 in the morning there. And so that's the interesting part there. So actually, let's see. This is going back to. Yeah, I think I need a slightly bigger plot here. Let me get back to the seismograph. 12 hours, 24 hours. Let's go 24 hours. Okay, it's 24 hours. Okay, that's a little easier to see there. There's the onset this morning. So, all right, that's the monitoring signals. I want to show you more seismographs, but let's move on to the gas. International Park, they do have these 15-minute recordings of SO2, hourly recordings of PM 2.5. Let's reload this and see if it's picking up anywhere. Most of the gas, from what I can see in the webcams, is blowing up and away. They are showing here the circle showing the wind direction isn't very strong. 2 meters a second, 5 miles an hour from the northeast, not very strong, so it could be lingering in the area a little bit more. Let's click on the charts, and you can see here everything looks in the green. It's all in the green still, all in the green. So really all the VOG is mostly blowing into the air. I'm hearing our on-the-ground correspondents talk about how they're still getting occasional wafts coming over in that area in the national park, so definitely take precautions there. But mostly it's blowing into the air and it's limited on the ground so far. Right? I did go check purple air briefly, and also still all on a green. However, I expect if we check this again tomorrow, we're going to see a whole bunch of extra measurements coming up, probably likely in an area off in this direction over here. So that is what we have thus far. Let me see if I could get a hold of these guys over at the crater. Just a second here, and I'll come and check in the comments as well. As you guys can clearly see, I don't have Dana with me today, so I am obviously not in a chat at the same time as I'm saying all this stuff. I will come back, drop in here in a second. Okay, so let's try to drop a message there. Let me look at the comments here a little bit. So let's see. Back to the beginning here. Let me check on Facebook first here. We're seeing that there was small sulfur yesterday. Yes. Yeah, even more today. Aloha, everybody. Gabby, Dick, Ponder, Suan, Toria, Kelly. Oh, there's too many of you guys. Sorry. So those of you guys who got in first got a shout out there. So I don't have any estimate on Fountain Heights yet. We did have a report this morning from someone who was looking at the free fall calculations. The last eruption had fountains that were hundreds of feet high. So we don't know exactly. It's obviously changing a lot. It might have been a lot higher at the beginning than it is now. So let's put us back on the live stream here. Let's actually switch to Two Pineapples over here and I'll put on their stream. And while I'm going through the talk here, so yeah, so what's on the screen now is one of those little dome fountains. That's probably in the order of, I would guess, 20, 30 feet high. That's just totally a guess, an estimate based on the previous things that we've seen out of this lava lake. At the beginning, it might have burst quite a lot higher. At the beginning of the eruption in January, we saw quite a high fountain and big surges of lava that swept across the crater floor. It was likely a similar thing today. We have to wait for those videos to emerge, and then we'll share them as they're available here. So mahalo for the question, Sean. Don't have a good answer on Fountain Heights, but I would estimate that they were originally hundreds of feet, and now probably tens of feet. That's the best guess that I can give you guys right now, and we'll wait for official information from USGS when it comes out. So let me... All right. So let me find my other stream here. Just a second, you guys. It's a little more hectic than usual since I am running solo and also supposed to be somewhere else at this point in time. So let's see here. All right. So what I'm gonna do right now is maybe put on the sound from Two Pineapples and let them know that we have you guys on there since they're up at the park. Let me put the sound on right now. Here we go.
I'm gonna switch cameras because I'm in a wonky spot here. Hara's up top so he could catch it. So something happened on that western wall. We heard a little bit of an explosion. And we'll see if we get any details on that later. That's the thing, it doesn't matter what side you're on, you're always going to miss something.
So you guys can hear Lou there. Lou and Anna are up at the crater. He can't quite hear me, I don't believe, so I'll just comment a little bit more. I believe that they're on a north rim there at Uikahuna looking to the south. There has been glow reported early morning, Volcano House.
We might have had the western wall collapse. There was a little bit of a tornado funnel going up right there.
Interesting, so yeah.
We are live on Hawaii Pod. Right on. Thanks, guys. I don't know if you noticed, but on the west side of the wall, it was a loud explosion. It was a little tornado of fog, smoke, flume that went up through there. It's on the southwest wall. If you want to kind of go back, maybe one of the other cameras picked it up. Something happened over there. It definitely came with a loud explosion. Both these cameras are on the top left. Is in the middle of the caldera. And main screen is right there.
Mahalo, Lou. Really appreciate that.
So that's what we're focusing on right now. As things clear up, the fog gives us a little bit of a break. I can shoot through the wall, the top left screen. We're watching this wall over here. This wasn't the wall I was just referring to that the explosion came from. This wall's been doing this pretty steady now the entire time. SO2 level up here is okay, but recommend if you have allergies normally, bring a mask. We don't smell it. From where we're at, the wind is blowing from the north and pushing everything down to the west. So we're good.
Appreciate that, Lou. I really appreciate your report here. You guys want to go and follow those guys? They are on YouTube. 2 pineapples right there. 2 pineapples.
So I don't know what the actual number of vents are. I kind of counted 6 at one point. Those are just main large areas I saw and felt that were considered vents. Let's see if Philip has another number for us. We do not go anywhere without food. That's correct.
I'm going to go with your number, Lou, there. I know you probably can't hear me, but if you say 6, I'm going to believe you.
Vents right here. I've got the top left screen on. If we pan to the right, you can see a lot of activity happening over here. Hard to see from our vantage point because of all the fog. If that clears up or we change locations, we'll probably get a better view of that.
I appreciate that, Lou. I'm gonna cut your sound off there and let our viewers just see that, once again, 2 pineapples on YouTube. So if you guys want to go pick up that stream, go ahead. But I'm gonna sign it off here, and I will likely be back this evening at some point. It may be kind of late this evening before we can do another update. So keep your eye on Hawaii Tracker. We'll try to have our community post their videos and post their updates and pass what comes up on USGS through there. But this will be our video update for the morning here until this evening. So mahalo, everybody. Mahalo to Pineapples. Mahalo for the USGS. And until later today, this evening, likely late tonight, I'm going to estimate it might be like a 10 p.m. deal if I can get on. Then come back and give you guys another more update on that as well. So until then, check out 2 Pineapples. And from myself, Philip Ong, mahalo and aloha.